Welcome back, Night Watchers. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is, midnight, 3 a.m., or somewhere stranger. And tell us, do you like the rain visuals or should we change it up? Your feedback shapes the shadows. Let's begin. It started with a broken remote. Nothing dramatic, just one of those small, frustrating malfunctions. My TV remote stopped working late one night while I was flipping through channels. Batteries were fresh, I'd just replaced them. The buttons still clicked under my thumb, but the TV stopped responding. I shrugged, got up to turn the TV off manually, and that's when the channel changed on its own. Not to anything I recognized. Just static. Black and white snow with a low, hissing sound, soft but steady like the TV was exhaling. I tried flipping to another channel. Nothing. Just static, no matter what number I typed in. Then the screen flickered. A frame. Just for a second. Too fast to register. I froze. Then it happened again, this time a little longer. It looked like a room, dimly lit, walls made of what looked like concrete or stone. No windows. A single hanging bulb swinging slowly, casting jerky shadows. The image cut back to static. And then, a figure, standing in the room, facing the camera. Its face was blurred, like bad compression, but its eyes were wide and unblinking. It didn't move, it didn't blink, it just stood there, watching. I reached for the power button. Before I could press it, the figure tilted its head just a fraction of a degree, like it saw me. I turned off the TV. Silence returned to my apartment. But that night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I kept looking at the corners of the room, expecting to see movement. I even unplugged the TV, just in case. At 3:17 a.m., the screen turned back on, by itself. No power, no signal, no input, just static. And the room again. The figure was closer now, filling more of the frame. I yanked the cord from the wall. Nothing happened. The TV kept hissing, flickering. The air in the room grew thick, charged with something I can only describe as pressure, like 1,000 eyes were looking through the screen. Then, in a voice like rusted metal grinding underwater, it spoke. We're tuning in. I grabbed a blanket and left the apartment. Slept in my car. In the morning, the TV was off, back to normal, but something changed. Every screen I passed, at the gas station, in the cafe, at work, they all flickered as I walked by. Only for a second. But enough. One night, I stayed with a friend trying to avoid going home. He laughed when I told him, assumed it was sleep deprivation or stress. At midnight, his TV turned on. He hadn't touched the remote. He looked at me. We both watched as the same static hissed across the screen. Then the room. Same bulb, same walls. No figure this time, but the camera was moving, slowly panning, as if searching. It settled on a corner, and in the shadows, something crouched. Long limbs. Jittering movement. A low thrum pulsed through the floor, vibrating in our feet. My friend threw a blanket over the TV. The hum stopped. We didn't sleep. The next morning I went home. I couldn't keep running. I figured if it wanted me, it already had me. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, the figure has returned, closer each time. It's outside the room now, in a hallway I don't recognize. I've tried smashing the TV, it still turns on. I've bought new ones. The same static finds its way in. The voice speaks more clearly now. You're almost ready. I don't know what that means. But this morning, the screen didn't show static. It showed me, sleeping. Same clothes, same sheets, same angle from the corner of the room. Something stood over my bed, watching. And when I blinked, so did it. Now every reflection is off by just a little bit. Mirrors, windows, even puddles, they show me standing still, long after I've moved. And the last thing I hear before the TV turns off is always the same. Shh, you're already tuned in. The wrong number. It started with a voicemail. No ring, no missed call, just a message waiting when I got back from work. My phone showed a timestamp of 2:44 p.m. while I was in a meeting with no cell service. The number? All zeros. No area code, no caller ID, just 00000000. Curious, I played it. The recording was 5 seconds long. Static at first, then a voice. Not loud, not rushed, just a low whisper, close to the mic. Don't pick up next time. I stared at the screen, heartbeat ticking up. I thought it was a prank, some scammer with a creepy sense of humor, until the phone rang the next night. 2:44 a.m. exactly. Same number, 00000. I didn't answer. I watched the screen as it buzzed. Twice. 3 times. It stopped. I exhaled. Then my phone lit up again. Voicemail. Another 5-second recording. This time, there was breathing, slow and heavy, and one word, soon. I deleted it, blocked the number, reported it. But the calls kept coming, always at 2:44, always the same number, and every time the voicemail grew longer. More details. I heard footsteps on tile, a sink dripping, a voice muttering numbers in reverse, and then my name. Whispered, clear as day. Lena. I live alone. I hadn't told anyone about the calls. The next night, I turned my phone off before bed. At 2:44, I woke up anyway. Something was buzzing. Not my phone. My doorbell. 3 short rings. I stayed in bed, heart hammering. Then a 4th ring. I got up, crept to the door, peeked through the peephole. No one. Just empty porch and dark street. But my phone, off and unplugged, buzzed on the counter, lit up with one notification. Voicemail. One new message. I turned it on. The message was 20 seconds this time. Breathing. Whispering. Then the creak of a door, my front door. I checked every lock, still sealed, but I couldn't sleep after that. The next day at work, I told my coworker. He laughed, called it a marketing thing. I wanted to believe him. That night, I took a sleeping pill. Woke up to my phone in bed beside me, unlocked. The most recent photo in my gallery was one I hadn't taken. It showed me, asleep, from the foot of the bed. A tall figure stood in the corner, half shrouded in shadow. The timestamp? I didn't go to work the next day. Didn't leave the house. I covered every camera, turned off every smart device, tried to call the police. They told me no crime had been committed. Block the number, they said. It's probably spoofing. I changed phones, changed carriers, changed my number. It worked for a week. Then one night at 2:44, the phone rang again. No ringtone. Just the vibration waking me. No number, no caller ID, just unknown. I answered. Not on purpose, my hand just moved, like something compelled me. The voice on the other end wasn't whispering this time. It spoke clearly, calmly. We've traced your signal. A pause. Then static exploded through the speaker, so loud it made me drop the phone. My ears rang for hours. The screen turned black, wouldn't respond. When it rebooted, there was a new voicemail waiting. But it wasn't audio, it was video. It showed a stairwell, cement walls, yellow lighting, somewhere underground. A figure walked slowly down the stairs, holding a phone, recording as they descended, step by step, toward a door marked, Lena, room 3. I've never seen that place before, but something tells me it's real, and they're getting closer. I tried to leave the city. My car GPS glitched. Gas station pumps wouldn't read my card. Every time I passed a traffic camera, my radio crackled with static. At one point, I pulled over, checked my phone. There was a voicemail from my own number. This time, it was my voice, sobbing, whispering over and over, "Don't answer. Please don't answer." But it's too late now. Tonight, there are no more calls, no voicemails, no static, just a knock at the door. And I already know what time it is, 2:44. The mirror in apartment 6C. When I moved into apartment 6C, the mirror was already there, tall, antique, bolted to the wall in the hallway across from the bathroom. The frame was ornate, twisting vines, carved birds, a strange sun motif at the top with too many rays. The glass was aged, slightly fogged at the edges, but clear enough. The landlord told me not to touch it. It's original to the building, he said, eyes lingering on it. Don't try to remove it, just let it be. I shrugged. I wasn't planning to do any redecorating. I was just happy to find a cheap one-bedroom in the city. The first few nights were quiet. I was still settling in. Boxes everywhere, cheap Chinese takeout, Netflix humming in the background. But on the 4th night, I noticed something strange. As I passed the mirror on my way to the bathroom, I saw something off. It was me, sure, but not exactly me. My reflection paused a beat too long. I blinked. It didn't. I stopped. Stepped back, looked again. It was me, perfectly synced. Maybe I was tired, maybe the lighting played tricks on my eyes, but from that moment on, I avoided looking too long. A week later, I saw it smile. I hadn't. I was brushing my teeth, foam in my mouth, half asleep. I looked up, and the reflection grinned. Wide. Too wide. My stomach turned. I spun around, heart racing, nothing there. I looked back. My reflection matched me again, blank-faced, groggy. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I covered the mirror with a towel. When I got home from work, the towel was on the floor. The mirror was clean, cleaner than before, like someone had polished it. I checked my door, still locked. No signs of a break-in. I called the landlord. He answered on the first ring. "You looked too long, didn't you?" he asked. I didn't know what to say. "Whatever you do," he continued, "don't speak to it." He hung up. I didn't call back. That night, I stayed up with all the lights on. At 3:12 a.m., I heard movement, not from outside, from the hallway, from the mirror. I crept out of bed and peeked around the corner. The mirror was dark, black glass. My reflection was gone, but something was on the other side. Not a room, not my hallway, a forest, thick trees, no sky, everything bathed in deep red light, and standing in front of it, my reflection, but not me. Its head twitched in sharp, insect-like jolts. Its mouth hung open, eyes too wide, too bright. It raised its hand and beckoned, slow, mocking. Then it mouthed something. "Let me in." I backed away, shut the door, turned every light on, didn't sleep, didn't move. At sunrise, the mirror was back to normal. But I wasn't. I started catching glimpses during the day, in store windows, phone screens, sunglasses. It would stare, smile, mouth words I couldn't hear. My reflection wasn't mine and it had learned to hide, and I think it was waiting. The next night, I made a mistake. I stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "Who are you?" The surface rippled, like water, and the thing stepped forward. Closer to the glass, it pressed its hand to the surface. I felt a chill on my cheek. It whispered back, "You." I ran, slept in my car. When I returned the next day, the apartment was freezing. The walls were damp, and the mirror had cracked, just slightly, down the middle. Behind the crack, I could see it, waiting. Every night since, it speaks, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in my voice. "It's cold here. Let me out." "You're already halfway in." I tried smashing it. I brought a hammer, swung hard. The glass didn't break. The wall around it did. The frame is now buried deep in broken plaster and splintered wood, but the glass remains, untouched. I covered it again, nailed boards over it. The next morning, the boards were gone. No nails on the floor, no wood, just the mirror, clean, smiling. I tried leaving, packed a bag, booked a hotel, but every reflective surface showed my apartment, even on the road, even miles away. Gas station window, apartment hallway, car side mirror, my bed, phone selfie cam, the thing in the mirror, smiling. Closer. I'm back home now. I don't remember unlocking the door. I don't remember walking inside, but I woke up on the floor in front of the mirror, my reflection watching me, mouth moving, and this time I understood. Almost there. There's a crack in the mirror now, wider, and something inside is pushing through, a hand, gray, wet, flickering like a broken signal. I don't know what happens when it gets out, or if it already has. Sometimes I feel like I'm not on the right side anymore. Like the world beyond the glass is more real than this. If you find this note, don't look, don't speak. And whatever you do, don't let it smile first. The man who followed me home. It was raining the night I first saw him. I was walking home from the late shift. Past midnight, streets slick and empty. Just the hush of drizzle on pavement and the buzz of distant neon. I took my usual route through the underpass near 7th Street. It was always quiet there. Too quiet. That's where I saw him, tall, thin, standing beneath the flickering light at the far end of the tunnel. Perfectly still. No umbrella, no hood, just a dark coat soaked through. His head was tilted ever so slightly, like he was curious about something far away. I slowed. He didn't move. The light above him blinked once, twice. Then he took one step forward. I turned and walked faster. By the time I reached my street, I couldn't hear footsteps behind me, but I felt something, like eyes pressing into my back. I told myself I was being paranoid. Cities are full of weirdos, people who loiter, watch, move strangely. I locked my door tight and made tea, trying to forget about him. The next night, he was there again. Same spot, same posture, same slow step forward. This time, I didn't slow down. I crossed the street, took the long way home, and yet as I fumbled with my keys under my apartment's awning, I looked down the street and saw him, 3 blocks away, standing beneath a broken street lamp. Closer than he should have been. Watching. I didn't sleep well. My dreams were filled with wet footsteps and endless tunnels. By the 3rd night, I started keeping my blinds closed. I turned every light on the moment I got home. Something about the man's presence lingered long after I'd left the street. I could almost smell the rain on him. hear the soft drip, drip, drip of water hitting the floor. Then came the knocking. It started at 3:03 a.m., just 3 knocks on the front door. Not urgent, not aggressive, measured. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After a full minute, I crept to the peephole. No one, just the quiet hallway beyond. I looked through every room in my apartment. All the windows were locked, no footprints on the floor, but in the bathroom mirror something was off. There was water on the floor, a small puddle, dark, reflective, right behind me in the reflection. I turned. Dry tile, but the reflection still showed the puddle, growing. That night, I slept in my closet with the light on. The next morning, I told my friend Mason. He laughed it off, but agreed to walk me home that night. We took a different route. No sign of the man. We even joked about it. Maybe he was a ghost with poor time management. But just as Mason turned to leave, he froze. I followed his gaze. There, at the end of the street, was the man in the coat, standing beneath a new street lamp. Dry as bone despite the still falling rain, Mason called out to him. No response. The man tilted his head again, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then he took one step forward. We ran. Mason stayed with me that night. We locked every door, pushed furniture in front of the windows. At 3:03 a.m., the knocking returned, but this time it came from the hallway. Inside the apartment. 3 knocks. Mason grabbed a bat. I held my breath. We opened the bedroom door slowly. The apartment was dark. Every light had gone out. Water dripped from the ceiling. The knocking came again. From the bathroom door, we flung it open. No one. But the mirror was fogged, as if someone had just stepped out of the shower, and scrawled across it, written in the condensation, "You're home." We left the apartment, stayed in a hotel. I called the landlord the next day and demanded they check the place for intruders, leaks, anything. They found nothing, but they did mention something strange. "The last tenant in 4B?" the manager said, flipping through a clipboard. "She broke her lease early, said something about a man in a coat watching her sleep." I asked what happened to her. He shrugged, moved out, never gave a forwarding address. That night in the hotel, I dreamed I was underwater. Not swimming, sinking, arms wrapped around me, cold, pulling. And at the bottom, waiting in the darkness, was the man in the coat, smiling. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat and water. My hotel bed was soaked, but the ceiling above me was dry. I left the city the next day. I didn't pack. I didn't say goodbye. I just got in the car and drove. I thought I'd escaped. But last night, in the parking lot of a roadside motel 300 miles away, I passed under a flickering light and saw him. Tall, still, dripping wet, standing at the edge of the trees, waiting. I'm typing this from the motel now. The lights are starting to flicker. The room smells like rain. And it's 3:02 a.m. If he knocks, I won't answer. If he finds a way in, I won't scream, because I think that's what he wants. To know I see him. To know I remember. And worst of all, to know I brought him with me. The library that wasn't there yesterday. I walk the same route to work every day. Same cracked sidewalks, same boarded up shops, same barking dog behind the rusted fence. I know the street like the back of my hand. So when a building appeared halfway down Parkhurst Avenue, one that hadn't been there yesterday, I stopped walking. It was a library. Or at least, that's what the plaque beside the black iron doors claimed. The Parkhurst Public Archives, Est 1901. Funny thing is, I've lived here 10 years. That lot's always been empty. Just gravel, weeds, and broken glass. But today, brick walls, tall windows stained in red and blue, heavy oak doors with iron handles. I checked my phone. No listing, no website, no reviews, no Wi-Fi signal. And yet the lights were on inside. I was late for work already. I don't know why I opened the door. Maybe it was the smell, that warm, musty paper scent that wraps around you like a childhood blanket. A memory of rainy afternoons and forgotten corners. The interior was bigger than it looked from outside. Much bigger. Cathedral ceilings, endless shelves, spiral staircases that climbed into shadow. Dim, flickering chandeliers hung like molting spiders overhead. Everything was dustless, silent, except for the woman at the front desk. She wore a charcoal gray suit with sharp shoulders and tiny round glasses that reflected too much light. "Welcome," she said, without looking up. "We've been expecting you." "I just saw this place," I muttered. "Wasn't here yesterday." "If you notice it," she said, flipping a page in a leather-bound ledger. Even fewer enter. She handed me a card. Not a library card, something older. Handwritten in looping black ink. Elias Mercer, temporary patron, section 3. I didn't remember telling her my name. Third row to the left, she said. Only touch what bears your name. I should have left, but something pulled me forward. The shelves were vast. Dusty tomes, yellowed scrolls, books with no titles, books with locks, books wrapped in twine. The deeper I walked, the quieter it became until my footsteps were the only sound. Then I found it. A narrow blue volume, spine cracked with age. No title, just a symbol, a closed eye. I pulled it down. My hands trembled. Inside, pages filled with detailed accounts of my life. Not broad strokes, moments. July 9th, 2011. Lied to mother about the phone call. October 3rd, 2014. Watched the accident but didn't help. February 12th, 2019. Heard the scream in the alley. Kept walking. Things I barely remembered. Things I tried to forget. On the last page in fresh ink, March 2nd, 2025. Enters the archive. Begins to remember. I dropped the book. It didn't hit the floor. It just vanished, swallowed by the silence. I turned to leave and the shelves behind me were gone. No exit. No rows, just more shelves, higher now, angled inward like they were leaning toward me. I started walking, calling out. No answer. Only the sound of a page turning somewhere deep in the stacks. I ran. Took a staircase upward, spiraling into dim red light. At the top, a reading room, empty, except for a desk and another book. This one was bound in something dark, almost leathery, and my name carved into the cover in jagged letters. It was open to the middle. The page read. He opens the book. He begins to scream. Before I could react, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, wet. I turned. The librarian stood in the doorway. Only now her glasses were gone, and where her eyes should have been, there were sockets filled with moving ink. Some books, she said softly, write themselves as you read. I backed away. The room began to spin. The walls groaned. The book's pages flipped on their own, faster, louder, then stopped. The final page read, "He realizes he never left." I woke up in my bed, or thought I did, until I checked the mirror. My eyes were bleeding ink, and on the table beside me, the blue book, open to today's date. The entry reads, March 3rd, 2025, tells others about the library, brings them closer. If you're reading this, if you ever see the library, don't go in. Don't take the card. Don't touch the book with your name, because once it knows you, it never forgets. The door with no room. When I moved into my new apartment, I noticed the door on the far wall of my bedroom immediately. It wasn't on the tour, wasn't in the floor plan, and when I asked the landlord about it, he frowned. "That door doesn't open," he said flatly. "It's sealed. Been that way since the 80s. Just ignore it." But it didn't look sealed. The handle was old brass, tarnished but intact. The door itself was plain white, like every other one in the unit. No marks, no warning signs, just a bit of scuffed paint near the bottom, like something had scratched it from the inside. Still, I didn't mess with it. Not at first. For the first week, everything was fine. Quiet building, nice neighbors. The walls were thin, but nothing unbearable. The bedroom was cozy, and aside from the occasional weird creak from that corner, it felt normal. Until the second Friday. I came home from work to find the door slightly open. Just an inch. Just enough to see blackness beyond. I stared at it from across the room for a long time. Had I bumped it? Could it even open? I approached slowly, heart thudding in my ears. I pushed it shut. It clicked. I turned the lock. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the door, and around 2:33 a.m., I heard something behind it. Not loud, not violent, just a soft, rhythmic tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice, muffled like it was speaking through cotton. "Are you there?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I pulled the covers over my head like a child and waited until dawn. The next morning, I examined the door again. There was no draft, no gap beneath. When I turned the knob, it didn't move. It was like the night before had never happened. But every night after that, the knocking returned. Always at the same time, always followed by that same voice. "Are you there?" It never said anything else, never got louder, just the knock, just the whisper. By the fifth night, I started answering. "Who are you?" I whispered back, standing just inches from the wood. No response. I asked again the next night, and this time, The voice whispered, "I was like you once." The next night, "I'm not supposed to be here." And then you let me in. I stopped answering, but the door kept opening, just a crack each night, wider and wider. Soon I could see inside, but there wasn't anything to see. It wasn't a room. It wasn't even darkness. It was absence. No depth, no light, no shape. Like staring into a missing part of the world. I shoved furniture in front of it. The next morning, the door was closed, the furniture untouched. But deep gouges had appeared in the wood, long, ragged scratches as if from broken nails. And the knob was warm, like someone had held it tightly all night. I asked the neighbor across the hall if she'd ever noticed anything strange. She just stared at me. "You hear it now?" she said quietly. I nodded. She stepped back into her apartment and closed the door. No one else would speak to me about it. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. All I could think about was the door. One night, I woke to find it fully open, the blackness beyond it, alive. It pulsed, shifted, like breathing fog, and something moved inside. A shape, tall, slender, crooked at the joints. It didn't step through, it only stared, and I stared back. Then it whispered, "Now you're part of it." I tried to move. I couldn't. Tried to scream. Nothing. The shape bent forward, impossibly, its face inches from mine. I couldn't see it, only the feeling of a face. Cold air, pressure, hunger. Then, like a string snapping, the lights came on. Morning. The door was shut again. But my hand, my right hand, was black from the wrist down, like it had been dipped in ink. I scrubbed until my skin turned raw. It didn't come off. That night, I tried to leave. I packed a bag, called a rideshare, booked a hotel. But when I got into the car, the driver turned slowly and said, "Room's waiting." His face was blank, pale, wet. I jumped out, ran back up to the apartment, slammed the door behind me. The door was open, wider than ever. The shape was gone, but I could hear it in the walls now, in the plumbing, in the hum of the refrigerator. Breathing, waiting, aiding. Tonight is different. Tonight I can feel it behind me even now as I write this. The apartment doesn't feel like it exists anymore. The lights flicker in patterns. My reflection doesn't always move with me. And the door? It's closed now, but something is knocking again, softly, rhythmically, from inside the room. Tap, tap, tap. The voices in apartment 4D, they told me the unit was vacant, had been for months. The guy before me skipped town in the middle of the night, left everything behind. Furniture, dishes, even a half-used bar of soap still clinging to the sink. I should have asked more questions, but I needed a place, badly. Cheap rent in a decent neighborhood? I wasn't going to complain. Besides, the apartment seemed fine at first. A little dusty, a little stale, but nothing some open windows and a scented candle couldn't fix. The first night I heard the voices. They started at 1:11 a.m., a soft murmuring in the walls, too muffled to understand, too clear to ignore. It sounded like a conversation. Two people, maybe three, calm, quiet, like they were trying not to wake anyone. I pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. The voices would only come when I was still, when the room was completely silent. Then, just before 1:30, they stopped. I told myself it was the neighbors, thin walls, old building. The second night, I heard them again, but this time they were louder and closer. I sat up in bed and realized the voices weren't coming from the walls at all. They were coming from inside the apartment, from the living room. I crept out of bed, heart pounding, every board beneath my feet groaning like it knew something I didn't. I peered around the corner. No one there, just the couch. The flickering streetlight through the blinds, my half-finished glass of water on the table. I stood there for a full minute, holding my breath. Then I heard it again, directly behind me. A whisper. He's listening. I turned so fast I lost my balance. Nothing there. The apartment was empty. I left every light on that night. In the morning, I called the landlord. He sighed when I told him, "You're in 4D, right?" I froze. "Yeah." A pause. "Don't answer them," he said. "Answer who?" Another pause. "You'll know when they ask." Then he hung up. I didn't sleep that night. At 1:11 a.m., the voices returned, but this time they weren't murmuring. They were chanting, soft and slow. The same four words over and over, "Let us come in." I backed into the kitchen, grabbing a knife. Not that it would have helped. The air had gone cold, heavy. The lights flickered once, twice, and then the chanting stopped. Silence. Then a knock. 3 soft raps on the inside of the bedroom closet door. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knob turned slowly, but the door stayed shut. In the morning, the closet was empty. No sign of anyone, no footprints, no open window. But on the inside of the door, scratched deep into the wood, were the words, "We see you now." I started staying out late after that. Coffee shops, all-night diners, anywhere but the apartment. But every night I came back, it was worse. I'd find the fridge open, the faucet running, all the lights off, even when I knew I'd left them on. And always, always that faint whisper, "He's listening." By the 6th night, I'd had enough. I bought sage, salt, an entire shelf of supernatural nonsense. I lined the windows, lit the candles, said the chants, played Gregorian chants off my phone, and for a moment, it worked. No voices, no knocks, just quiet. Until 1:11 a.m., the smoke from the candles twisted midair. The salt lines blew inward, the lights exploded one by one, and then I heard it, clear and sharp. "We're already inside." I ran, didn't pack, didn't lock the door. I slept in my car 3 blocks away, watching the apartment window. At 1:11 a.m., the light turned on, and someone closed the blinds. I never went back. Tried to get out of the lease, but when I called the landlord, the number had been disconnected. I went to the office in person. It was boarded up, vacant for years. I asked the neighbor across the hall, an old woman who always smelled like onions and wore the same pink slippers every day. "You mean 4D?" she said. "That place has been empty since '98. I told her I'd been living there for a week. She looked at me with pale, glassy eyes. "No, dear," she whispered. "They let you think you did." I moved out of state that weekend. New job, new apartment, no shared walls. For a while, things were fine. But a week ago, I woke up to the faintest murmur in the walls. Soft, slow, and at 1:11 a.m., I heard the closet door creak open. The disappearing floor. I moved into the building on a rainy Thursday. It was an old brick place, worn but charming, tucked between a vacant laundromat and a deli that never seemed to be open. 4 floors, 12 units total. I lived on the 2nd floor, Unit 2B, with creaky floors, yellow walls, and a window that faced a rusted fire escape. The first few nights were uneventful. Quiet, almost too quiet. No footsteps above, no voices through the walls. At one point, I even wondered if anyone else lived in the building. Then, on the 5th night, I took the stairs to check the mail and noticed something strange. There was no 3rd floor. The staircase from the 2nd floor led straight to the 4th. The sign that used to read 3 on the landing had been scratched out, and in its place, a freshly painted number 4. But I remembered it differently. When I moved in, the building manager pointed to the stairs above and said, "3rd floor's empty. No one's lived there in years." I was sure of it. I even remembered seeing the faded brass number 3 on the door across the hall when I was carrying boxes upstairs. So where had it gone? I asked the landlord. He chuckled and shook his head. "No 3rd floor here. Never was. Just 1st, 2nd, and 4th. Old buildings are weird like that." But his smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, I stood in the stairwell between floors, staring at the walls. No hidden doors, no seams in the plaster, but I felt it, like pressure, something unseen, pushing back. I climbed from the 2nd floor to the 4th again, counted the steps, 14 stairs up from the 2nd to the 4th, but when I walked from the 1st to the 2nd, there were only 8. Something didn't add up. I took measurements. I knocked on the walls, hollow, as if there was a space between the floors that wasn't supposed to be there. Later that night, around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps above me, slow, heavy, not in the 4th floor hallway, directly above my ceiling, where the 3rd floor should have been. I looked up from my bed and listened. Step, 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 then dragging, like something was being pulled. I recorded it on my phone. The audio was faint but clear, footsteps, scraping, and breathing. In the morning, I played it back for the landlord. He laughed again, but his hand trembled slightly as he handed the phone back. "Old pipes," he muttered. "You'll get used to it." That night, I didn't sleep. The sounds were louder, closer. At one point, my ceiling fan began to spin on its own, even though it wasn't turned on. Then came the whisper, a woman's voice, soft, tired. Help me! I bolted upright. The ceiling above my bed pulsed, just once, like something had pushed down from inside. I moved my bed to the other side of the room. I started asking neighbors if they'd heard anything. Most avoided me. One guy on the fourth floor shook his head and muttered, "We don't talk about it." That same day, I found a forgotten maintenance closet off the stairwell. Locked. But the frame was warped, like something had kicked it outward. I jimmied it open with a knife and flashlight. Inside, there was a narrow service ladder tucked behind paint cans and rusted tools. It led up into darkness, into the space between the second and fourth floors. I stared at it for a long time. Then I climbed. The air grew cold fast. The flashlight beam barely pierced the darkness. The space was tight, like crawling through an old vent. At the top, a trapdoor. I pushed. It opened. I climbed into the third floor. It existed. Just wrong. Dust coated every surface. The hallway was narrow and off-kilter, the walls slightly slanted. Doors lined both sides, numbered 3A to 3D, but their paint peeled in curling ribbons. The light bulbs flickered dimly, powered by something unseen. And it was quiet, the kind of quiet that presses on your eardrums. I walked toward 3B. The door was open an inch. Inside, a room frozen in time. Old wallpaper, broken furniture, a child's toy on the floor, a radio playing static. I stepped in. The door slammed shut behind me. I turned. It was gone. Not just closed. Gone. Just wall now. No knob, no seam, no door frame. The static got louder. The room grew colder. I turned in place and saw the window. Someone stood on the fire escape outside. A woman in a white dress, long hair hanging limp and wet, her face pressed to the glass. She was mouthing something. I leaned closer. "Help me." The lights cut out. Darkness swallowed everything. I reached for my phone. Dead. The static from the radio deepened into something else. Wet breathing, slow and raspy, moving closer from behind me. I didn't look. I pressed my hand to the wall where the door had been and pushed. Nothing. I whispered, "Please." Something whispered back, "You're too late." Then the floor vanished. I woke up in bed, back in 2B. Morning light poured through the window. The ceiling fan was still spinning. My phone was on the nightstand, battery full, no missed calls, no recording. I ran to the stairwell. No sign of the closet, no ladder, and the landlord? Gone. The building manager told me there was never a guy by that name. No one had lived in 3B for decades. "There is no third floor," he said firmly. "But I was there," I whispered. He stared at me a long time, then said, "That floor only appears for the ones it remembers." I moved out that day, but sometimes when I walk past the old building, I see a woman on the third-story fire escape, staring down, waiting. And now, every night at 2 a.m., I hear footsteps above me, wherever I go. The whistle in the woods. Everyone in Dunridge knows you don't go into the woods after dark. It's not superstition. It's not ghost stories whispered at slumber parties or warnings from old paranoid farmers. It's survival. The rule is simple. When you hear the whistle, you go inside. You don't check the window. You don't open the door. You don't whistle back. Just turn off the lights and wait. I used to think it was nonsense. My family moved here from the city 2 months ago. My dad transferred for work, and the old house near the edge of the forest was cheap. Too cheap. We thought we'd gotten lucky. On our first day, the neighbors brought us casseroles and awkward smiles. They were polite but distant. Everyone said the same thing before they left. "Just remember, if you hear the whistle, stay inside." I laughed about it later with my little brother, Jake. He was 9, a fearless little idiot who loved flashlights and ghost stories. The idea of some forest ghoul whistling in the dark thrilled him. "Maybe it's Bigfoot," he said with a grin, "or a forest ghost, or a whistling werewolf." We joked, we mocked, we forgot, until the first night it happened. It was just after 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen. As I passed the window above the sink, I heard it. A single clear whistle. It cut through the trees like a knife, low and slow, like someone trying to get a dog's attention. My skin went cold. I stood frozen, the glass of water halfway to my lips. Another whistle, closer this time. Then silence. I turned off the kitchen light, crept to the living room. Jake stood there already. He'd heard it too. His eyes were wide, his mouth a thin line. Neither of us said a word. We waited. Nothing else came. The next morning, I asked our neighbor, Mrs. Eldon, about it. She paled. Told me the same thing everyone else had. You hear the whistle, you go inside. But what is it? I asked. She looked toward the woods. Something that remembers who listens. That night I didn't sleep. The whistle came again at exactly 2:03 a.m., closer, longer. It echoed through the trees and rattled something in my bones. Jake wanted to look outside. I stopped him. We stayed in the dark. It left eventually. The next day, there were footprints in the grass behind our house. Not boot prints, not bare feet, long, narrow imprints like hooves, but wrong. As if whatever made them walked upright, they led from the forest to our back door and back again. Jake started asking questions. I told him to drop it. This wasn't a game. This wasn't one of his monster books or late-night YouTube videos. Something was out there, and it knew we were here. But Jake, he was 9. And 9-year-olds don't listen. That night, I woke to the sound of the back door creaking open, then the whistle. Inside the house. I ran down the stairs, my heart trying to climb out of my throat. Jake stood in the kitchen, the door wide open, moonlight pooling at his feet. He was whistling. Just once. Just softly. I grabbed him, pulled him back inside, slammed the door shut. He looked up at me, confused. "I thought it wanted a friend," he said. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. But I locked every door and window in the house. We didn't sleep. The next day, Jake was quiet. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk. That night, the whistling started early. 1:57 a.m. It came in 3 bursts. One far away, one closer, one just outside the window. Jake was gone from his bed. I found him in the hallway, his hand pressed to the wall, head tilted like he was listening to a song only he could hear. I called his name. He didn't move, only whispered, "It's so lonely." I pulled him back to bed, held his hand until morning. The next day, he smiled at breakfast, told me he didn't remember anything. But his eyes were wrong. Too wide, too calm, like glass. I told my parents. They said it was just sleepwalking, stress, adjustment. But I knew. Whatever was in the woods, whatever whistled in the dark, it had noticed him. It had touched something inside him. I tried researching. Dunridge wasn't online much. No articles, no forums, no mentions. But I found a single old message board post from 2009. One sentence. "If you hear the whistle, don't answer. It learns your name when you do." I unplugged everything that night, sat by Jake's door with a baseball bat. The whistle came again. 2:03 a.m., low, long, familiar. Jake stood up in bed, walked to the window. I yelled his name. He turned and smiled, but it wasn't his smile. It stretched too wide. The corners cracked. His eyes were pitch black. He opened the window. I ran and slammed it shut just as a shape lunged from the trees. Tall, stretched, faceless. Jake screamed, a sound not made by any child. Then he collapsed. When he woke up, he was crying, sobbing. "I didn't mean to whistle," he said. "It made me." We moved the next day, left Dunridge behind. The house sits empty now. But sometimes at night, I swear I hear it again. That low, lonely whistle. Calling. Waiting. And I wonder how long it will take for it to find us again. The Man in the Yellow Raincoat. When I was 9 years old, I saw a man standing at the end of our driveway. It was raining hard, and he wasn't holding an umbrella. Just standing there, motionless facing the house. His yellow raincoat was too bright, almost glowing in the storm. Hood pulled low so I couldn't see his face. I called for my mom. When she came to the window, he was gone. She said I imagined it. I believed her. For a while. The second time I saw him, I was 13. A thunderstorm had knocked out the power, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, reading by candlelight. I looked up, and he was there again, across the street this time. Same coat, same stance. Perfectly still. My dad went outside with a flashlight, found nothing but muddy footprints leading into the woods behind our house. After that, I started dreaming about him. In the dreams, I'd be walking through an unfamiliar neighborhood at dusk. The sky would be orange, the wind sharp. I'd pass empty swings and silent porches, and then I'd see him at the corner of my vision, always far away, always watching. In every dream, I'd try to ignore him. And in every dream, I'd hear footsteps behind me soon after. By the time I was 17, I convinced myself he was just a recurring nightmare, something my mind conjured to explain growing up, moving on, fear of change, whatever therapists say. Then, senior year, during a field trip, I saw him again. We were touring an old mining town converted into a museum. The rain started suddenly while we were walking through one of the preserved houses. I looked out the fogged window, and there he was, standing at the tree line, yellow coat slick with rain. Closer this time. I couldn't move. He raised his hand. Not a wave. A slow gesture, palm up, fingers curling in. Come here. I ran outside. There was nothing there. No footprints, no man, just the trees and the rain. That night, I didn't sleep. When I closed my eyes, all I could see was that hand, beckoning. After graduation, I left for college on the other side of the country. I told myself distance would fix it. It didn't. The dreams got worse. Sometimes I'd wake up with wet footprints on my dorm floor. Sometimes I'd hear dripping in the hallway, but the pipes would be dry. Once I saw him on the subway platform, standing on the far side of the tracks, his hood turned toward me. No one else seemed to notice him. When I blinked, he was gone. I stopped telling people. They didn't understand. Thought it was stress, or sleep paralysis, or unresolved trauma. I stopped sleeping altogether. Eventually, I moved off campus. Cheap apartment, 1 bedroom, no windows facing the street. But the night I moved in, I found a yellow slicker hanging on the back of my closet door. I burned it. It didn't help. The night he finally spoke to me, it was raining again. I'd just gotten home from work, soaked to the bone. The elevator in my building was broken, so I took the stairs. On the landing between the 2nd and 3rd floors, I slipped, caught myself on the railing, looked up. He was standing at the top of the stairs, closed now, so close. For the first time I saw his face. It was mine, older, wetter, eyes sunken, lips cracked, skin the color of cold meat. He leaned forward and whispered, "It's time." I ran. I didn't stop until I was on the street, sat barefoot in the rain, screaming. No one helped me. I checked into a motel that night, slept with the lights on. In the morning, my phone had a new wallpaper. A photo of me, sleeping, and behind me, through the motel curtain, just barely visible, a sliver of yellow. I moved again, tried to disappear, different state, changed my name, no social media, no paper trail, it didn't matter. He still found me, always when it rains. Always in the reflection of bus windows or the puddle near the curb. He doesn't speak anymore. He doesn't have to. Because I know what he wants. I think I've known all along. He's not a ghost. He's not a stalker or a memory. He's me. A version of me from somewhere else. Somewhere colder, wetter, deeper. And every time I see him, he's closer. Every time I look away, he takes a step. Now tonight, the rain hasn't stopped, and I've stopped running. I'm back in my childhood home, sitting at the kitchen table, candlelight flickering. There's a knock at the door, slow, soft. I already know who it is. I think I always did. And when I open it, I think I'll understand everything. Static in apartment 4C. It started with the radio. I'd just moved into a tiny, crumbling apartment in the city. Apartment 4C, top floor, no elevator, cracked walls, and a draft that made every night feel like November. But it was cheap, and I was broke. The place came with a few leftover furnishings, a stained armchair, a dusty bookshelf, and an old analog radio sitting on the windowsill. It didn't work at first, just static, no matter the station. I kept it for decoration. Then one night, around 2:30 a.m., it turned on by itself, just static at first. Then a voice, quiet, almost drowned beneath the fuzz. "Don't look out the window." I sat up in bed, heart thudding. Had I imagined it? The voice came again, clearer this time, still hidden under the hiss. "It's right outside." I crossed the room slowly and unplugged the radio. It kept playing. "Don't blink." Then it cut off. Total silence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, I asked the building manager if the radio might be picking up interference, maybe from a nearby taxi dispatch or construction crew's walkie-talkies. He just laughed. "You're in 4C?" he said, suddenly serious. I nodded. He sucked on his teeth and looked away. "Strange stuff in that unit. Tenants don't last. Most don't make it past a month." I pressed him. "Why?" But he just walked off. That night, the radio was silent again. I thought maybe it was over. I even joked about it to myself as I got ready for bed. Then, around 3 a.m., the room went cold. Not normal cold, wrong cold. Like the kind of cold you feel in your bones, not your skin. My breath fogged the air and the tiny window frosted over from the inside. Then came the static. The radio wasn't plugged in, but it buzzed to life, louder than before. "Don't turn around," I froze. "It's behind you." I didn't move. "Run." I bolted. Out the door, down the stairs, into the street, barefoot in my pajamas. I didn't go back until morning. When I did, everything looked normal. The frost was gone. The radio was off. But there were wet footprints on the wooden floor, leading from my bed to the wall behind the radio. No one else had a key. I threw the radio away, smashed it in the dumpster with a hammer. The next night, I heard the static again. No radio in the room. It came from the walls. "You're already marked." The voice was deeper now, slower. "Closer, we see you." I left that night and got a hotel. Didn't tell anyone why. But wherever I went, the static followed. The voice found me in car speakers, in Bluetooth earbuds, and white noise machines. You let it in. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. And then I noticed the eyes, in mirrors, in windows, in puddles on the sidewalk. Reflections where I should be alone. Someone else looking back, always smiling, never blinking. I saw a priest, a psychic, a therapist. None of them helped. The priest wouldn't even go near me. The psychic screamed before I said a word. The therapist just told me to check into a hospital. But the voice wouldn't stop, and neither did the static. It grew louder every night, and more things started to move. Doors creaking open, lights flickering, shadows crossing the room while I sat frozen in the corner. I found claw marks on my ceiling, nails under my pillow. Then, last night, I got a knock at the door. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. There was no one there. Just the old radio, sitting on the floor. Pristine, like it had never been broken. It clicked on. Let us in. I slammed the door and ran to the bathroom. Locked it. Turned on the sink to drown out the sound. But the faucet poured black water, and the mirror showed something standing behind me. Tall, smiling, static screaming from its mouth. Now I'm writing this from inside my closet. Lights off, door locked. It's quiet for now, but I know it's not over because the radio just turned on again. And it's not speaking anymore. It's laughing. The fog only comes for one. I was halfway through my shift at the gas station when the fog rolled in. Thick, yellow-gray, unnatural. It came fast, swallowing the road, the trees, even the glow of the overhead lights. 1 second I could see the pumps on the edge of the forest across the street. The next, it was all gone, like someone draped a wet woolen blanket over the world. We get fog sometimes, sure, but not like this. Not this dense, not this quiet. Everything felt muted. No sound from the road, no crickets, no wind. Just me and the humming of the fridge behind the counter. I stepped outside and called out, thinking maybe a car had pulled in and I just hadn't seen it. Hello? No answer. The fog swallowed my voice. I could barely see 10 feet in front of me. That's when the bell above the store's door jingled behind me. I spun around. No one was there. But the door was open. I stepped back inside, heart ticking faster. Locked the door. That's when I noticed it. The cameras were all out. Static on every monitor behind the register, and my phone had no signal. I stood still for a long minute. Then the lights flickered. Just once, then again, and then I saw it. A shape, pressed against the glass of the front door. Tall, thin, wrong. It wasn't a face, not exactly. But there were features, indents where eyes should be. A long slit where a mouth might have formed. It wasn't looking through the glass, it was feeling it, pushing against it like the fog had birthed it, and it didn't quite know what form to take. I stepped back. The shape didn't move. It was like it couldn't see me, yet. Then it started to tap. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the glass. Tap! 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 I backed into the storeroom, locked the inner door, and turned off the light. I didn't know what I was hiding from, only that every instinct in my body was screaming that I should. In the dark, I heard the front door open. Slowly, hinges groaning. No footsteps, just silence. Then something brushing against the shelves. Something wet. The security system didn't trigger. The fog must have jammed it, or maybe the thing wasn't human enough to set it off. I sat on the floor, shaking, holding my breath. Then my walkie crackled to life. The one that only connected to the other clerk, Dave, who worked the night shift at the next station 12 miles down the road. "Tyler," he said, voice shaking, "is it foggy there?" I grabbed the walkie, whispering, "Yes. Stay inside, Dave. Lock everything." "I tried," he said, "but something came in. It's not moving, just standing near the cooler, smiling, smiling." I didn't say anything, then Dave said something that made my blood freeze. It said your name. What? It whispered it. Tyler, over and over. That's when I knew. The fog didn't come for everyone. It came for someone, one person, each time, and tonight it had come for me. Dave screamed. The walkie went silent. I didn't move, didn't breathe, sat in that pitch-black storeroom until the silence outside became unbearable. Then I heard it, a whisper, from behind the shelves. "Tyler." I bolted, out the back door into the choking fog. I couldn't see anything. Not the trees, not the road, not even my hands, but I ran. Branches scraped my arms. The fog filled my lungs like smoke. Every few feet I swore I heard it behind me. Breathing, dragging, whispering. Tyler. I ran until I hit pavement, a road, somewhere. Then I saw lights, headlights, cutting through the fog. I ran into the middle of the road, waving. A truck swerved, horn blaring, and stopped inches from me. The driver jumped out, shouting. I fell to my knees, crying. He didn't see anything in the fog. Said the whole way from the south had been clear until the curve just before the station. I looked behind me. The fog was already receding, drawing back like it was never there. The gas station, gone. Just empty forest and cracked road. The trucker took me to the sheriff's office. They sent a car to check the station. They didn't find it. No building. No sign it had ever existed. Just trees. I showed them pictures from my phone, photos I'd taken last week of the storefront, of me and Dave behind the counter. All gone. Replaced with black static images. Corrupted files. And Dave? No one had heard of him. The other gas station? Burned down 15 years ago. I don't know how long I have. But I know this. The fog still comes, and it only comes for one person. Each time. If you ever see it rolling in, don't speak your name, don't answer the knock, and whatever you do, don't let it smile. The caller on line 7. I used to work nights at a 24-hour call center. We handled everything. Tech support, billing, even emergency customer assistance. Most of the calls were mundane. People yelling about their routers or confused about bank statements. I'd put on my headset, sip burnt coffee, and wait for the next ding. We had a rule, never answer line 7. It was an old rotary line, a leftover from some outdated phone system they never disconnected. There was no cable running to it, no light, no record of it in the software, but sometimes rarely it would ring. Once. Then twice. Always at exactly 3:33 a.m. And if someone answered it, they didn't last long. I thought it was just a scare tactic for new hires, some kind of ghost story passed down between shifts. Don't answer line 7. She doesn't like it when you interrupt her. Stuff like that. I laughed it off. We all did, until it rang during my shift. It was my 3rd week. A storm had knocked out half the local grid, so the phones were dead quiet. Just the buzz of the fluorescent lights and the soft clack of keyboards from the few other night staff. Then I heard it. Ring? A sound out of place. Heavier. Hollow. I turned to my left. Line 7. The old rotary phone on the far desk was vibrating gently as if struggling against gravity. 1 ring. 2. I looked around. The others stared at their screens, eyes wide, pretending not to notice. 3 rings. Then silence. Nobody moved. Not for a long time. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why even keep a phone with no connection? Why not unplug it? Destroy it? When I asked the shift lead, Maria, she got quiet, pale. It's not connected to anything, she said. Not here, anyway. What's that supposed to mean? She looked at me like she wanted to say more, but she didn't. So the next time it rang, I answered. It was the 3rd Friday of the month, dead quiet. The air had that pressure to it, like a thunderstorm that never came. At 3:33 a.m., the phone rang. Ring! My coworkers looked away. Ring. I stood and crossed the room. Ring. I picked up the receiver. There was no sound at first, just a low hum like something vibrating beneath the ocean. Then I heard breathing. Shallow, close, followed by a voice, childlike, wrong. Hello? It said. Can you see me? I felt something tug behind my eyes like my vision had dimmed a little. No, I whispered. Good, it said. Then the line went dead. I put the receiver down and walked back to my desk. My hands were shaking. The room felt colder. Nobody said a word. I didn't sleep that day. Over the weekend, I started seeing things in reflections. Flickers of movement. Someone standing just behind me in the mirror. In store windows, in puddles. Always smiling, never blinking. I stopped going out at night. I stopped answering my own phone. I threw away every mirror in my apartment. Still, I'd hear that voice. On the radio. Whispering from the vents. Can you see me? Then on Monday night, line 7 rang again. Only this time it didn't stop. It rang and rang, longer than it should have been able to, the bell echoing across the call center like a heartbeat. I refused to answer, but Maria didn't. She screamed the moment she picked it up. a sound I've never heard from another human, pure terror, raw and gurgling. She dropped the phone, fell to the floor, and started crawling backwards. Then she just stopped, eyes wide. Blood trickled from her nose. She never moved again. The company said it was an aneurysm. We knew better. After that, they removed the rotary phone, cut the whole desk out, and replaced the carpet. But I can still hear it. At exactly 3:33 a.m., no matter where I am. Ring. Always 3 times, then silence, and later, the voice. Whispering from the dark, you answered. Now it's your turn. I don't know what turn means, but I haven't slept in days. And tonight, there's no one else here, no one left to take the call. Line 7 is ringing again, and it's not going to stop. Room for rent. I was desperate when I found the ad. Room for rent, furnished, cheap, no deposit, no questions. It was handwritten, taped to a streetlight on my walk home from a night shift. I ripped off the tab and called immediately. A man answered on the first ring. "You can move in tonight," he said. That should have been the first red flag. But I was couch surfing, broke and out of options, so I took it. The house was old, Victorian maybe, faded red siding, crooked shutters. It sat alone at the end of a long, overgrown street. The kind of place you see in horror films, but convince yourself will be fine because rent is only $200 a month. The man who met me at the door was tall, thin, and pale. His smile didn't touch his eyes. "You'll have the room at the top of the stairs," he said. "Keep the door shut at night, always." "Why?" I asked, half joking. He just looked at me. "Some things are polite if you are." I laughed nervously. He didn't. There were other tenants, he said, but I never saw them. Sometimes I'd hear soft footsteps above me or hushed whispers from the floor below. But the house was massive. Maybe it was just old pipes and shifting floorboards. The room itself was plain. A bed, a desk, a tall mirror that looked like it hadn't been moved in decades. The walls were an odd yellow, the color of forgotten things. That first night, I followed the landlord's advice. I shut the door. I wish I hadn't. Because sometime around 2 a.m., I heard scratching. Faint at first, then more insistent. It wasn't coming from outside the room. It was coming from inside the walls. I sat up, heart pounding, ears straining in the dark. Then I heard the voice. A whisper. "Let me out." I froze. The scratching stopped, and then knock, knock, knock. 3 soft knocks from inside the wall behind the mirror. I didn't sleep. The next morning, the landlord was in the kitchen, sipping tea that smelled like rust. I tried to bring it up casually. "Hey, weird question. Is there like anything living in the walls?" He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You closed your door, right?" I nodded. "Then it can't touch you." That night, I shoved a chair under the doorknob just in case. The scratching started again, this time louder. "Please," the voice whispered. "It's so cold." I covered my ears. Eventually it stopped. But the next morning, the mirror was cracked, just one long fracture down the center, like something had pressed too hard from behind. I asked the landlord if I could get rid of it. "No," he said, "it's not yours." "Who does it belong to?" He didn't answer. He didn't. By the 4th night, I noticed changes in the room. Things moved while I slept. My shoes weren't where I left them. The window was unlocked, even though I never touched it. And the mirror. Each night, the crack got wider. And something started to appear behind the glass. A shape, like a figure hunched just behind the reflection, barely visible in the shadows. Watching. Waiting. On the 5th night, the voice was louder. "You're not like the other," whispered. "You see me." "I know you do." I didn't answer. Its crack in the mirror pulsed. I stayed up until dawn. When I finally slept, I dreamed I was inside the mirror on the other side, watching myself sleep, smiling. But my reflection never blinked, never breathed. When I woke, the chair was across the room and my bedroom door was open. I ran, told the landlord I was leaving. He didn't argue, just nodded and handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photo of me standing in the hallway outside my room, taken from behind. "Who took this?" I asked. He said nothing. I didn't go back upstairs. I packed what little I had and left without another word. But that night, in the motel across town, I woke up around 2 a.m. The mirror in the bathroom was cracked, just one long fracture. And in the silence, I heard a voice whisper, "Thank you for letting me out." The yellow door. When I was 12, my family moved into a crooked farmhouse on the edge of town. It had been abandoned for decades, the kind of place people whispered about, but never really explained. My parents got it cheap, a fixer-upper with history, they said. They didn't ask why it had no previous owners listed. Didn't ask why every room had been repainted except one. The room with the yellow door. It was in the upstairs hallway at the far end opposite my bedroom. A pale, mustard yellow. No handle, no hinges, just a flat slab of painted wood embedded in the wall as if someone had drawn a door and forgotten to finish it. I asked my mom what was behind it. Just the attic, she said. Nothing up there but dust. But the house creaked differently near that door, the kind of creak that seemed to respond to footsteps. It had a pressure to it, like the air bent inward when you got too close. On our first night, I woke to scratching. It came from the other side of the yellow door, faint at first, like something dragging nails down wood. I pulled the covers over my head and told myself it was just the house settling, but the scratching came every night, always at 3 a.m. After a week, I stopped sleeping. One night, I got brave, stood in the hallway with a flashlight and pressed my ear to the yellow door. No sound. Then, just as I turned to go back to bed, I heard it. A knock, soft, slow, from the other side. Then a whisper, low and trembling. "Are you still there?" I ran. I didn't tell my parents. They wouldn't have believed me. But I started marking each night on a calendar. Every time I heard the scratching or the knock, I drew a red X. Within a month, the entire page was red. Then came the voice. It started whispering to me when I was alone, in the bathroom, in the backyard, in my dreams. "Let me out. Please, I'm so cold." "Shh. You're the only one who hears me." I started covering the yellow door with blankets, chairs, anything I could push against it. But no matter what I did, the next morning, everything would be neatly put aside, door perfectly visible again. One morning, I found a drawing taped to my bedroom wall. It was me, standing in front of the yellow door. The figure behind me was wrong. Too tall, too thin, with arms that reached the floor. Its face was blank except for a jagged black smile. I didn't draw it. My parents said it was probably a prank. But the next day, another drawing appeared. This time the figure's hand was on my shoulder. By now I was sleeping with the light on and my door locked. On the 47th night, the voice changed. It wasn't begging anymore. It was angry. "You think you're safe. You locked your door. Doors don't stop me." That night, the yellow door cracked open, just a sliver. Enough to see darkness behind it. No attic, no wood beams, just a black void that seemed to breathe. I slammed my bedroom door and didn't open it again until morning. When I finally got the courage to look, the yellow door was sealed again. No crack. But there was something new. A single handprint, long fingers, pressed into the paint like it had melted the wood. I showed my mom. She blamed me, said I was going stir-crazy, that I needed to spend less time alone. She booked me a weekend with my aunt across town. I packed my bags that night. I planned to leave in the morning. But at 3 a.m. I woke to find my door wide open. So was the yellow door. And something was standing in the hallway. It didn't move, didn't speak, just watched me. Its body looked like it had been stitched together from shadows. Too many limbs, joints bending the wrong way, face tilted at an impossible angle. Its mouth opened, but the sound that came out wasn't a voice. It was my own. "You still there? Are you still there?" I screamed. The lights exploded. The hallway went dark. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up in the hospital. My parents told me they found me in the hallway, unconscious. No sign of intruders, no evidence the yellow door had ever been opened. I didn't speak for 3 days. When I returned home, the door was gone, repainted, seamless, like it had never been there. But I still hear the scratching, still hear the voice, and sometimes, in the corners of mirrors or the flicker of a turned-off screen, I see the shape, still watching, still smiling, still waiting behind the yellow door. The clock tower at Whistler's Hollow. They told us never to go near the clock tower. It had loomed over Whistler's Hollow for as long as anyone could remember. Its iron hands rusted still at midnight, its bell long silent. No one maintained it, yet it never crumbled. Trees grew thick and wild around it, but the ivy never climbed the stone. It simply stood there, watching. People said it rang once a year, only once, on the last night of October, and only when it was ready. When I was a kid, it was the dare of every group. Sneak into the tower grounds on Halloween night and touched the door. Just the door. No one ever opened it. No one ever could. But it was tradition. A rite of fear. So when our group of 4, me, Sam, Eli, and Jess, turned 16, we made our plans. Flashlights, hoodies, a thermos of stolen whiskey. The perfect Halloween. We snuck out just after 11. The fog was heavy, rolling through the trees like smoke. The air felt wrong, quiet in a way that felt deliberate, like something was holding its breath. The forest path led us there in 30 minutes, but it felt longer. Each step crunching leaves beneath our feet echoed like thunder. Then, there it was. The tower. Its silhouette loomed above the trees like a monument to forgotten gods. The stone was black with age. The massive wooden door, arched, iron-bound, and warped with time, stood just beyond a rusted gate. No windows. No visible way inside. Sam laughed first, nervous. So who's gonna touch it? Jess goes first, Eli said. She's the brave one. Jess rolled her eyes and stepped through the gate. The second her hand touched the door, the clock chimed. Once. Loud and low, like a groan from the earth itself. We froze. The air changed. It became heavier, denser. The fog seemed to cling tighter. Jess backed away. That wasn't funny. We didn't do anything, I said. No one's inside. Then the door opened. By itself. Slowly. Just a few inches. Enough to show blackness beyond. No sound came from it. Just a chill that rolled out like breath from a corpse. Okay, screw this, Eli said. Let's go. But Sam stepped forward. Wait, he whispered. What if this is it? The one night it opens, we could be the first to see inside. We could be the first to vanish, Jess snapped. But it was too late. Sam had already stepped through. The moment he crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut. We screamed, pounded on the wood. No answer, no sound. Then the door creaked again and opened. Sam stood there, but he looked wrong. His eyes were wide, unblinking. His skin had taken on a pale grayish tone like wax. Sam? Jess whispered. He smiled. It's beautiful in there, he said. You should see it. I took a step back. Come on, he said. Don't you want to hear the ticking? Eli pulled at my sleeve. We're leaving, now. But Jess hesitated. She stared at Sam, at the way he stood too still, the way his chest didn't rise and fall. There's no sound, she whispered. You're not breathing. Sam tilted his head. I don't need to. Then something pulled him back into the darkness. The door slammed again. This time it didn't open. We ran. The forest seemed longer than before. The trees shifted. The air warped. But eventually we stumbled back into town, panting and shaking. No one believed us. Sam was listed as a runaway. His parents moved within the year, but we knew. That tower took him, and it changed him. We stopped speaking after that. The bond we shared shattered by fear. I moved to the city. Jess dropped off the grid. Eli never left town, but he never went near the woods again. 10 years passed, but this year on Halloween night I got a letter. No return address, no stamp, just 4 words written in Sam's handwriting. It's your turn now. I didn't sleep. I called Eli. No answer. I called Jess. The number was disconnected. I drove back to Whistler's Hollow that same day. The town hadn't changed, still small, still gray, still haunted. That night I walked the forest path again, alone. The fog was waiting for me. So was the tower. Its door was open, no sound, just a black mouth inviting me in. I didn't want to go, but my legs moved anyway. As I stepped inside, everything went quiet. No wind, no heartbeats, no breath. Just a ticking sound, slow and steady, coming from everywhere at once. I turned to leave. The door was gone, only stone walls now. And ahead of me in the darkness, I saw them. Figures, standing still, hundreds of them, all watching, all smiling. Sam was among them. So were Jess and Eli. Their eyes were empty, their faces cracked like porcelain. They raised their arms in unison and pointed at me. The ticking stopped, and the bell above rang once more, loud enough to split the sky. I write this now on the back of this page, hoping someone finds it. Because the tower is open again, and it's always looking for its next chime. The girl in the drain. When I was 11, I saw a girl staring up at me from the storm drain in front of our house. It was summer. Hot. My bike had a flat, and I was sulking on the curb, poking gravel with a stick. The drain cover was rusted and crooked, its slats wide enough to see through. Normally, there was only darkness below, black water and the occasional rat. But that day, there were eyes. 2 of them, pale and glassy, set in a dirt-smeared face. A girl, maybe my age, crouched just below the surface, her lips barely moving. "Help me," she whispered. I screamed and ran inside. My mom came out and checked the drain. Nothing. No girl, just stale water and weeds. You've been reading too many ghost stories, she said, tussling my hair. But that night I couldn't sleep, because just before midnight I heard a voice, faint from beneath the floorboards. Still here. The next morning, the drain was full of water. But there were handprints on the curb, muddy and small. I avoided the front of the house after that. Took the long way around to school. Kept my eyes up when I passed the gutters. But some days I'd feel it, like something was following beneath me, crawling through the drainage system, whispering my name through the grates. Kids in the neighborhood started to disappear, one by one. Each time there was a search, cops, flyers, candlelight vigils, and each time nothing turned up. No sign of struggle, no footprints, just gone. Then it rained, hard. The storm lasted 2 days, flash flooding, trees down. I was home alone, staring out the window at the water rushing down the street. And then I saw her again, standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, soaked to the bone. The girl from the drain. She raised her hand and pointed at the house, at me. I backed away from the window. The lights flickered. The basement door creaked open by itself. Water trickled up through the floor drain. I heard footsteps, soft and wet, climbing the stairs. I locked myself in the bathroom. For hours, I heard nothing. Then a knock on the bathroom door. Tap, tap, tap. Then her voice. Let me in. It's so dark down there. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Eventually, the water receded. The next morning, the power was back. The door was still locked. But on the bathroom mirror, written in grime, were 3 words. You saw me. I tried to tell my parents. They said I needed help, therapy, medication. I tried. But the dreams didn't stop. In them, I'm crawling through pipes, filthy, tight tunnels that twist like veins. Something always follows. Close behind, breathing down my neck, and the girl's voice echoing through the rusted dark, we live beneath. I moved away when I turned 18. Different town, different roads, but I never forgot. I avoided drains. I never walked near gutters or grates. I lived in high-rise apartments and never rented anything with a basement. It worked for a while, until last week. It rained, and when I stepped off the bus, I passed a storm drain. A whisper floated up. Still here. I didn't look, but that night, there was water in my hallway. No plumbing issues, no leaks, just a puddle stretching from the front door to the foot of my bed, and muddy footprints. Small ones. I boarded up the drain outside the building myself. Poured bleach down it, tried to forget, but yesterday a girl from my complex disappeared. 12 years old, no trace. And this morning, taped to my door was a wet piece of paper. Scrawled in brown ink or blood were the words, "She came out for you." I'm writing this from a motel 2 towns over. No drains in the room, no basement, just silence, but I can still hear the water, still hear her voice through the pipes. Let me in. It's your turn. The girl in the drain never wanted rescue. She wanted company. And I think she's done waiting. Thanks for watching. If you're still here, maybe check the nearest drain, just to be safe. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know where and when you're watching from. We'll be listening beneath the floorboards.